Okay, we'll pick this up. You essentially did what was necessary for an exam, but I want to continue here just so you can kind of see how this all in the end works out and how you really start to think about how the 2D goes to 3D. What we have here, if you remember, is then a block here that's a repeating shape, and then we have a bunch of other circles, of which we kind of didn't necessarily fill them all out. So I'm just going to go ahead and add one more through. I'm going to offset this circle out through here, through the intersection of that. I'm going to see later why that is. But we've got right now a tooth out here that is a closed shape. It was a polyline. And we can go and look at that by saying BL edit or B edit or block edit or edit a block, B edit. And we can now look at this tooth and we can see that we just made it a polyline. But we can remember that we can do things like making things regions. So we can say now region. Select my object, and it's a region. We can also say extrude and grab that object, and now we can give it a height or a thickness of maybe 0.2. And then we can say close my block editor, and you'll see what happens. You don't notice here, but that actually has brought that in as a 3D object. I can say v.1, 1, 1, shade, and you get an idea of what's going on there. You've made this thing into pieces that make some sense. Do an undo, an undo, an undo. And now we can more or less think about this part, what was going on. Kind of hard to say, but we can call that circle that's underneath here a region. And we can call this a region, and we can call this a region, and we can call this a region, and we can do some additions and subtractions perhaps, but that only is going to work if we start turning some layers off. And so this layer toolbar here is a great one sometimes to turn off layers you don't need around anymore. And if you think about that there, we now have, we can make a region and a region and a region and a region, and we can do that now because those circles can be made into regions. Region, that's an object, that's an object, that's an object. Cross, remove that one, and now we've got those 1, 2, 3, 4 regions. We can extrude this one, that same distance, 0.2. We can extrude this one, maybe 0.3. We can extrude this one, maybe 0.4, and we can extrude this one, maybe 0.4 as well. We can then do subtract this one and subtract that from it. We can then, finally, we can now learn to explode each of our blocks, so we can then break them into pieces and put them back together. So you'll see you don't want to put these back together if you're going to send them out to a program like SketchUp, where it's going to remember to save each of one individually and play with it. But there are times you might want this to be one solid piece. Take all that together. You can now say union and grab all your objects and hope that it closes up all the seam lines. And if you now say v.1, 1, 1, and you say shade, you can kind of see what's happening there. Though somehow we missed, if you meant that little middle hole. So we're going to see if we can do subtract this whole thing, window. It's not doing it. We missed our hole there, but you can kind of get the general idea of what goes on when you're doing this. And this piece here now actually has some physics to it and the like. So that said, I'm going to do a couple undos here. Undo, 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 undo. List. Notice there, that is still a block. So that's kind of what you want to have when you send these things out. And I think I'm going to leave it like that so we can go back out to SketchUp and you can kind of realize what you can do with this. So the last thing you want to do if you're going out to SketchUp is hit File, Save As, and grab it and save it as an older drawing. And I'm just going to make this sprocket, save it. We'll say hopefully that will work. Hit a close here and end out. And see what happens if we bring this now back up into SketchUp. Again, freely available program. Hopefully this will come up. You need to save out into SketchUp. You need to save things in the 04, or at least be aware that usually when you're saving programs, you're going to need to go back and save in a version old. So I'm going to see if I can resize my SketchUp to the window here so you can pick it all up. I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to hopefully find where I put stuff, because I'm kind of lazy about it when I'm at home here. Mark Attack, Documents. You get really good at learning how to change things by details. So you can hit up here, Date Taken. You can learn to go here and say, wait a second, I can order by date modified. And there's my sprocket. What I'm doing is I am importing, not opening, I'm importing. And there you have it. You kind of have the sprocket, which eventually we hope can be made to rotate. And if I look here, probably not perfect, but if we look at it, it came in one large piece, which we can right click and explode. And now it's a bunch of little pieces, which isn't so bad. I can see if I can say edit, cut. I didn't like that. Edit, cut. Didn't like that. Edit, undo, cut. So you got this general idea that there's something here that has some space and some size and something else going on. So amongst the things you're going to see as we finish out the 3 minutes is when you bring objects in here, you need to then define what they are. And in fact, this one, if we go right click, Sketchy Physics, we want that to be a cylinder. And we'd like this one, right click, Sketchy Physics, to be a cylinder. And we'd like this one to be right click, Sketchy Physics, to be a cylinder. But we'd like all the rest of these, and I'll try to see if I can grab half once. We'd like all of those. Shift right click, shift right click, shift right click. We'd like those all to be right click, Sketchy Physics, to be convex hulls. And you'll see why hopefully in a little bit. You like the rest of these, I'll get rid of him. Right click, erase. You like the rest of these as well over here on this side. To be right click, Sketchy Physics, convex hulls. Convex hull is kind of an interesting shape, and eventually you can then put all these things back together into a right click, make a group. And our hope here is then that when we go ahead and add some motor to it or a servo to it, this is a motor here, I think. I'm going to add a motor here, kind of put it kind of in the center, and you see how it's going up blue. Our hope is that we can then do this, connect up the motor. I'm holding down the control key to put this with this and hitting a spacebar touch and turning on physics and hoping it doesn't take the machine down, which it's going to do right now. And you'll see there that's not that uncommon. This is an older version of the program, but right there it should rotate, and we'll see how that works when we do it at campus. What should happen is that little spot in there, it actually knows it's, since it's a convex hull, it will know it's not there, and you can actually do meshing and the like of gears. What really does this is the program called Inventor. You draft flat, use regions, unions, subtracts, and then extrudes and things like that to get things working in 3D. Thanks for listening. Too bad that didn't work. We'll survive. See you, bye.